Prabhupada. Welcome to His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj's daily class. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today we are continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, verse number 26. Guru Maharaj, are you there? Your screen is frozen. Can you hear?
Okay.
Can you hear me, Maharaj?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can see you. What's wrong?
Oh, we couldn't hear you and your screen had frozen, but I think you're with us now.
Let's Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Niravinyata Shishnova Prajanadam Trit Tartitanaha. Upasta asikamanam priyatam ubayasrayam. Thereupon, for sexual pleasure, begetting offspring and tasting heavenly nectar, the Lord developed the genitals, and thus there is the genital organ and its controlling deity, the Prajapati. The object of sex pleasure and the controlling deity are under the control of the genitals of the Lord. Purport. The heavenly pleasure for the conditioned soul is sexual pleasure, and this pleasure is tasted by the genitals. The woman is the object of sexual pleasure, and both the sense perception of sexual pleasure and the woman are controlled by the Prajapati, who is under the control of the Lord's genitals. The impersonals must know from this verse that the Lord is not impersonal, for he has his genitals, on which all the pleasurable objects of sex depend. No one would have taken the trouble to maintain children if there was no taste of heavenly nectar by means of sexual intercourse. This material world is created to give the conditioned soul a chance for rejuvenation, for going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, generation of the living being is necessary for upkeep of the purpose of creation. Keep going up the page here. Okay. Sexual pleasure is an impetus for such action, and as such, one can even serve the Lord in the act of sexual pleasure. The service is counted when the children born of such sexual pleasure are properly trained in God consciousness. The whole idea of material creation is to revive the dormant consciousness of the living entity. In forms of life other than the human form, sexual pleasure is prominent without any motive of service for the mission of the Lord. But in the human form of life, the conditioned soul can render service to the Lord by creating progeny suitable for the attainment of salvation. One can beget hundreds of children and enjoy the celestial pleasure of sexual intercourse, provided he is able to train the children in God consciousness. Otherwise, begetting children is on the level of the swine. Rather, the swine is more expert than the human being, because the swine can beget a dozen piglets at a time, whereas a human being can give birth to only one at a time. So one should always remember, keep going. It's hard for you. I'm getting to the end of the page. Okay, yeah. Let's see. So one should always remember that the genitals, sexual pleasure, the woman, and the offspring are all related in the service of the Lord. And one who forgets this relationship in the service of the Supreme Lord becomes subjected to the threefold miseries of material existence by the laws of nature. Perception of sexual pleasure is therefore even in the body of a dog, but there is no sense of God consciousness. The human form of life is distinct from that of the dog, by the perception of God consciousness. Umgyantimirandasya jana salakaya Chakshu unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadanti Swam Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya De Satarine Vanchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bharata Yas Yatos Smi. What is that verse? Bharata Yatas Mos Me. I am sex life that is not contrary to religious principle. Krishna says I am. He mentions that in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, if I were to marry, I would have 100 children so I could bring them all up in Krishna consciousness. Oh, there is a purpose for everything in life, and sex has its purpose. It's not for recreation, it's for procreation. The materialists want to become like the swine or the dog and just enjoy some kind of pleasure by using the genitals. And therefore, they become implicated in the laws of material nature and so many reactions that cause so many sufferings due to taking advantage of this gift given by God for the sake of bringing children into the world, procreation. But a devotee follows the principles, just like when we vow on our initiation day, we accept 4 regulative principles. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. So illicit sex means that sex which is not used for procreation. And the materialists, they do all kinds of arrangements so they can have sex without having children. And this is very sinful, and they get reactions for that. Various types of contraceptives, methods. Even when a child is born, they don't want the child because they didn't plan it. They killed the child in the womb, such horrendous, sinful results. They will also have to be born and be killed as a result of that. So, yeah, this is the most easiest thing to be misused. So people might say, well, why is that pleasure connected with the genitals? Why isn't it someplace else on the body? Like on the finger or on the elbow or on the toe or something. Why is it in line with religious principles? And therefore, as it says here, it is actually a symptom of devotional service or an act of devotional service. Bharatasya Yato Shmi. I forgot the exact verse. I think if you turn to the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, verse number 14, I think it is. I know it's in the 10th chapter, but I can't remember which exact verse it is. Let's see. Go slowly. Yeah, keep going till you get at least to 14. Okay, keep going, keep going. But this is the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Okay. Okay, keep going. 19. Keep going. Yeah. Let's see, where else is it? Let's see, don't go too fast. Mm, Keep going. I hope I didn't miss it. Keep going. Maybe I missed it. Keep going up. Keep going. Mhm. Keep going. Go back. I must have missed it. You can go back to number 15 around there. No, may actually a little bit later. It said it's in one of these verses, I know for sure. It says, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. Mm, yeah, go down slowly. I am fine. So many things Krishna aligns himself with in the material world. But he also says this one also.
Guru Maharaj, it's 7.11.
Huh?
It's 7.11.
Seven?
Point
Seventh
one one.
point what? 11.
Point
7-11?
711, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Here it is. Balam balavantyaham kama raga vivarjitam dharma vidru bhuteshu kamasmi bar. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of Bart. Go down, see what Prabhupada says in the purport. Yeah. Yeah, again, sex life according to religion should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. Responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. So in the Bhagavatam, it explains that one should not take the position of a mother or a parent unless they can deliver their children from the cycle of birth and death. In other words, it becomes a great responsibility to take on children because you're taking on another soul and you're in charge of how that soul will progress in life. And the ultimate and the reason for purpose of human life is Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. If you're not able to lead them towards that goal, you should never even consider having children. Otherwise, you'll be implicated in a reaction that will be unpleasant, sinful action for having children, but can't bring them up in God can. Of course, if you try to bring them up and they don't cooperate, that's another thing. But that should be your goal. Make your children, the guru has to make his followers, teachers have to make their students all God conscious. Otherwise, the purpose of life is not fulfilled. Simply to have a material body and to engage in the same animal propensities that the lower beings do is not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is higher consciousness, which is God consciousness. Okay, so back to our actual verse. So sometimes people who take part in the Krishna consciousness, who live in Grihastha life, they say, well, this is very difficult to follow that principle of having sex only for children. We are associating with each other very closely, and that desire also is there. And sometimes they say, well, we should restrict that desire. We say sometimes people say, Well, that that is too hard to follow. But actually, that's one of the principles that we agree to in front of the fire, in front of the spiritual master, in front of the Supreme Lord himself, in front of the association of the Vaishnavas, to follow these principles. And one of them is sex life only for procreation of children. If one lives a godly life, one can do that. But if one does not stay strict in their own Krishna consciousness, they may incline to break that principle in the name of marital fidelity. Sometimes I've seen that. I've met many ladies who say that they have to service their husband because their husband wants it, even though they don't want it, but the husband is demanding it, and therefore they have to acquiesce. Or if the women we become very strict about that and refuse, then the husband sometimes goes out and does it in an illicit way. So they give all of these reasons why we shouldn't follow that principle. But all of these reasons are all material. Ultimately, if one is fixed in their Krishna consciousness, they can control their mind and senses nicely and engage in devotional service. You can see your partner as Krishna's servant and not an object for your own sensual pleasure. Then yet you serve the object that you're with by bringing that person closer to Krishna consciousness. The woman serves the man serves the woman, helping each other both on the material level and on the spiritual level. But if we're weak in our process of Krishna consciousness, we may be inclined to break these principles. So we have to remain fixed in having strong sadhana and steady like that. There are many examples in our society where both women and men, refuse to follow that principle and they openly reject it. But it's something that cannot be changed simply by the trend of the time, you might say, because it is a religious principle. Yeah. And to misuse, Prabhupada said, don't think your wife is a machine for your own sense enjoyment. And vice versa, the wife shouldn't think that she can enjoy anytime she wants with her husband because we're married. But if you follow the rules as given by the acharyas and by the spiritual master and by Krishna himself, then you can live a godly life and have many children. There's no limit to how many children you can have. That is fine as long as you can make them all Krishna conscious. So this misuse of this, what we say, propensity to enjoy sex life is prominent all around the world. And people in the material world simply live to enjoy it. And you'll see a lot of the relationships between husband and wife become one person was asking me about this. I said, well, if you break the principles in your household life, you start losing respect for each other. And you'll see that you'll start to think that person is causing me to go down in my own Krishna consciousness, and you'll also lose respect. But you follow the principles nicely, you gain both spiritual advancement and respect for each other as not only your husband or wife, but as a part and parcel of Krishna. Because ultimately, from the highest point of philosophical knowledge, everything belongs to Krishna. My wife is Krishna's part and parcel. My husband is Krishna part and parcel. My children are part and parcel of Krishna. They have been given to me so I can serve them by serving Krishna, by serving them. So this is how we should see things. And when that desire is there, then one should somehow or other restrain themselves from that. And there's ways you can also divert that energy. Sex life can start in two places. It can start in the mind, and then it can start in the body. When it starts in the body, then you can do exercise, you can do various types of what we say. And usually, if we eat too rich food, and then that will also agitate the sex desire. So we shouldn't eat too rich food. We should eat food that is tasty, but simply prepared and not very gorgeously with a lot of sugar, a lot of milk products, and a lot of other fancy condiments that we throw in there to give the tongue. Because the tongue and the belly and then the genitals is a straight line. Just like it says, that by eating, if you fill up the belly, then the belly pushes down on the genitals, and then that sex desire comes within the body, like that. Especially if you go to sleep after you eat, then it becomes strong when you wake up. And then one starts to think in terms of trying to fulfill that desire. But if it comes in the mind, then you just have to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, read the Bhagavatam, or somehow or other get away from the object that you want to enjoy. So therefore, one who can control sex life can make fast progress in devotional service. That's the easiest and fastest way to make progress, by giving up this tendency for sex life, because this is called the supreme enjoyment in the material world. When Prabhupada was here, he was preaching to one group of young men who were part of a rock and roll group. And Prabhupada said, he was talking about no sex life. And they said, no sex life? It's better to die. That was their response. Another time he was talking about it, and one person said, is there sex life after death? Prabhupada said, yes, you'll get another body to try again if you want it. So one who can conquer over that is, what is it called, is a Grihastha Brahmachari. That is not a statement that I made up. Grihastha Brahmachari is a statement by Srila Prabhupada, and it's mentioned in the Shastras also. Although they live with wife and children, they are not inclined to engage in those activities outside of the propensity or the desire or the need to create children. And they become also what is called Grihastha Brahman. They're actually following celibacy. And a Grihastha who can follow that becomes very strong in his Krishna consciousness. Very, very strong in his Krishna consciousness. So one has to learn how to control that by following the regulative principles of freedom, and by restraining from activities which activate sex life. Like too much sleeping will increase sex desire. Too much eating will also increase sex desire, like that. So we have to be very careful in our eating and sleeping, because it's connected to that desire, like that. And so this is a great science. And even in the Vedic scriptures, there is called the what is it called? The Kama Sutra. Kama Sutra. It's a text that teaches how to engage in sex life, but that's not for devotees. It's so all aspects of life are covered in the Vedas also, like that. But misuse of this causes so many problems: unwanted children, abortion, broken marriages, disrespect, and infidelity. So many things come by way of misusing this propensity given to us by God, because it says here the Lord also has genitals, because he is a person too. But his sex life is spiritual, and he expands himself in the form of the living entities. That's mentioned also in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the third canto, like that. So one can serve the Lord in that way for bringing children to the world. But nowadays we find that people are not inclined to have children because they think it's a big burden. They have maybe one or two, and they think that that's too much. Sometimes devotee parents, sometimes they think, if I have children, then I have to take care of children, and I don't have time for my own spiritual practice. I've run into that situation in a very big way. Many ladies think that actually their children are simply botherations because they want to practice Krishna consciousness, but they have to take care of their kids. And so they feel like they're diverted. So better not to have children in the first place if they're going to think like that. They only came to that conclusion or that reasoning after they had children. So, but one should avoid uh, having children. Of course, there is the Garbhadan Samskara, which is the purification program for preparing the womb for a saintly child. If the husband and the wife follow the Garbhadan Samskara, they'll get a good soul, which will come into that womb. It'll grow up in a very devotional way. If you see people, they have sex at any time, and then they create these children who are monsters, some of them, because some of them are coming from lower regions. They don't follow any rules and regulations for having sex life. They do it whenever they want to. Therefore, they're no better than the dogs and hogs, as Prabhupada said, the pigs. And but the reaction for human beings is very heavy, really heavy, for misuse of this propensity for procreation. Because it's important as a service to the Lord to bring children into the world so that they can grow up and have a chance to get to achieve the goal of life, which is Krishna consciousness. So yeah, this is a very important thing. We shouldn't avoid this subject matter. This is a subject matter that devotees should talk about so they can understand clearer what is the proper mood, the proper activities, how it relates to religious principles, and how it works against, like that. Prabhupada said, if you don't discuss this desire for sex life every day, then the tendency will be the mind will inhibit that desire, and it may manifest itself in a secretive way or in an illicit way. So it's good to discuss it because you can bring it out into the open. And of course, ladies should discuss it with ladies, and men should discuss it with men. Of course, husband and wife can discuss it amongst themselves, but not in a mixed group, because that would create some, what we say, difficulty in understanding these principles properly, and it may also agitate the mind. This is a very important subject matter, and it's the foundation, as they say. The whole world is based on sex desire. Prabhupada, when he was initiating one of his first disciples in 26 Second Avenue in New York, that devotee was talking about his professor, who was a Freudian, Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud related everything in the human culture to sex life. And this devotee who was getting, he said, my teacher was a Freudian. Prabhupada said Freud was correct. The whole world moves with this thing. If there was no sex life in the world, there would be no material life at all. I mean, so people live for it, people go after it, they write songs about it, they read books about it, they write novels about it, they commit suicide when they can't get it. It's like everything centers on sex life for the materialists. Everything. That's their focus. But for devotee, they know it has a purpose, and its purpose is for bringing Krishna consciousness children into the world, and not simply for recreation or some kind of sensual pleasure. Because that sensual pleasure is very fleeting. It's within a few seconds and then it's gone. And then people feel lost after it's all over. They feel like, they the desire is so strong that they can't restrain it, but after they're done, they they feel like they made a mistake. They feel empty. Because if you can retain that energy, you can also use that energy for higher intelligence, especially for brahmacharis. It's called udareta. Udareta means to bring that seminal energy up the spine and into the brain, and it fertilizes the brain, and the brain becomes sharp. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was a lifelong Udareta brahmachari, and he could remember everything he ever read in his whole life. And he used to read libraries worth of books. Prabhupada said, my spiritual master was a walking encyclopedia. But he never entertained sex life, even on a subtle level, his whole life. And therefore, he was very powerful in his Krishna consciousness. And that's there for everyone, both men and women. You can retain that, you can become strong, but you have to connect it to Krishna in devotional service. And if you decide not to have sex life in married life, then use that energy to serve Krishna nicely. That's all. By writing books, writing articles, preaching Krishna consciousness, one who can refrain from sex life becomes sharp in understanding this knowledge and able to explain the knowledge also. So it's a very powerful force, but when it's directed towards Krishna and devotional service, it becomes the source of liberation, the source of higher consciousness. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Dear devotees, please put your cameras on so we can see everybody and have a nice interactive Q&A session. Please raise your virtual hand if you would like to ask a question, or you can also put it in the chat and I'll read it out for you. Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you. Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Guru Maharaj, what is the obligation for a devotee that had their children before they became a devotee?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't undo the past. So therefore, obviously, there was some digression in the proper behavior, but now make them Krishna conscious and you become Krishna conscious, and now you follow the principles. It's not that they're condemned because of that. Obviously, there was some mistake, or some desire that was not controlled and used in the wrong way. So now it's done. What can you do? Well, I've seen, sometimes I saw at least one particular, one disciple who had a child before he was married, and the kid was a rascal. Never listens to his father. So you're taking a chance and bringing souls in from other places. You don't know where that soul's coming from. So if you follow the Garbhodhan Samskara, then you can bring in a saintly soul. And you have a good start for that soul in his progress towards spiritual life. But what's done is done. What can you do? Just try to follow the principles now.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu. Shivakumar Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj and Lord Brahms. Please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, I just wanted to kind of confirm, Maharaj, from this class that the husband and wife uniting for a purpose not for begetting children. Does that mean breaking the initiation vow, Maharaj? Is that what should be the understanding?
Because we make the vow no illicit sex. It's not like no sex, it says no illicit sex. Sex only for the procreation of children is licit. The illicit is the opposite. So, but nowadays, I find within our society, it becomes very hard for grihastas to follow that. Because they're weak in their Krishna consciousness. And sometimes they say, well, one person wants to follow it and the other one doesn't. And then there's difficulty within the marriage.
Okay.
I mean, we can't change the regulative principles just because it seems to be the way to go. And if you follow that, you'll gain respect for your partner. Respect will develop very strongly. Because you will regret doing it outside of religious principles, and you'll even blame your partner for helping you like that, and then you lose respect. You might even start to find, you might even become unhappy towards your husband or wife, thinking they led me away. So I've seen the grihastas who follow that very strong in their Krishna consciousness, very strong. Prabhupada said grihasta brahmachari. You know, this is a subject that's going to arouse people's consciousness and thinking. But this is what Bhagavatam does. Bhagavatam teaches you right to the essence. It doesn't mouse or mince anything. It tells you like it is. This is what Krishna consciousness is about.
Thank you.
I mean, to be Krishna conscious is the greatest achievement that one can possibly achieve anywhere. And to attain Krishna consciousness is not so easy. So why make it difficult by breaking the principles? And it also says that if the disciple breaks the regulative principles, they get a reaction for that. And the spiritual master also has to get a reaction for that also. So Prabhupada said, don't cause your spiritual master any unnecessary trouble.
Hmm.
You can go to 8.4.15, I think it is. Isn't it 8.4.15 in the Bhagavatam? Yeah, let's see. 8.4.15. Prabhupada said, what does it say? Thereafter, after getting up from bed in the morning, those of the, especially the brahmacharya, should chant this narration it is without deviation to counteract the trouble of bad dreams. Go down the page, report. Yeah, let's see. Here, the second paragraph. Somebody read that.
Because of
Because
similarities at night, we have bad dreams, which are very troublesome. Indeed, Maharaja Yudhisthira was obliged to see hell because of a slight deviation from devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, Dusvapan, bad dreams, occur because of sinful activities. A devotee sometimes accepts a sinful person as his disciple, and to counteract the sinful reactions he accepts from this disciple, he has to see a bad dream. Nonetheless, the spiritual master is so kind that in spite of having bad dreams due to the sinful disciple, he accepts this troublesome business for the deliverance of the victims of Kali Yuga. After initiation, therefore, a disciple should be extremely careful not to commit again any sinful act that might cause difficulties for himself and the spiritual master. Before the deity, before the fire, before the spiritual master, and before the Vaishnavas, the honest disciple promises to refrain from all sinful activity. Therefore, he must not again commit sinful acts and thus create a troublesome situation.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there it is. The spiritual master and the disciple get sinful reactions. The spiritual master either gets sick or he has to have bad dreams or both. That's why you see a lot of our spiritual masters, their health is not good. Why? Because they're taking on the reactions of their disciples. To accept disciples is the service of the spiritual master, and that the disciple, the spiritual master is eager to bring more souls to Krishna. But if those souls, after promising to follow and they don't follow, then it causes a very troublesome situation, both for the guru and for the disciple. So that's why we have initiation vows.
Yes. Thank you so much.
thank you, Shivakumar Prabhu. Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu, you have another question?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you explain that process that you mentioned where the brahmachari or the grihastha brahmachari can make the seminal fluid rise up the spine to the head and increase their intelligence? Is that something special that they have to go through?
No, if they refrain from sex life their whole life, they would go, it's called uttareta. Uttareta means one who doesn't lose one drop of semen his whole life. But even if when you bring in Krishna consciousness, if you chant the holy names, follow strictly the regulative principles, you can rise, they can bring that energy upward instead of bringing it downward. It can go either way.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Sharp. Drink no more than 1/2 pound of milk. No more than 1 pound of milk a day and 1/2 of a pound. By drinking hot milk, you rise your consciousness, the brain becomes fertile also. by taking very boiling hot milk with a spoon. And as soon as you take it, Prabhupada wouldn't take hot milk if it cooled down even a slight bit. He wanted it boiling hot because as soon as you take it, you can feel it goes right to the brain, and the brain becomes nourished by milk also. That's why it says drinking milk is nourishing finer brain tissues. But Prabhupada said not too much, not too little. He gave the formula like that. Like that. So milk also. And moving the seminal fluid up the spine through the process of strict execution of devotional service. And then your memory becomes sharp. You remember things. Nowadays, people can't remember anything. Or they remember only what they want to remember in terms of sense gratification. So yeah, memory becomes sharp when you remain celibate. But celibacy is there in married life too. By following that principle of procreation of children only. And Prabhupada gives the whole formula. I mean, Prabhupada told us everything. When the wife should be impregnated at a certain time of the month. And then that time, the wife is most likely to be able to conceive a child at that time. Prabhupada even talked about that. I won't get into the details of that because I don't think it's so important. But Prabhupada mentions that also. The time for proper union with the wife. And it says in the Vedic system that when you're going to unite with your wife, you should have a program, invite people to have what we say, a celebration that now he's going to begin the process of having a family, having a child. And then everybody will give their blessings. It's in the Western society, it's such a secret thing. But in Vedic culture, no, you make it known to your friends, relatives, and others. And there's even a ceremony. Nanda Maharaj did that. And before they were going to have his child with his wife, Yasoda, they called all their friends and they had a program. They announced it, and there was a celebration. So it's not a big secret thing that everybody hides behind the doors. That's Vedic culture, but where's Vedic culture nowadays? It's conspicuous by its absence.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
There's a lot to learn. When you follow the Vedic principles and you follow the teachings of the spiritual master, you become extremely powerful, both in Krishna consciousness and in physical strength. If you have too much sex life, the body becomes weak. And it's just like people who in the material world, when they're young, they just go for sex life. In the old age, they have so many physical deformities and problems. It catches up with you in old age. It's a fact. When you're young, it may not affect you so much, but when you're older, it'll hit you really hard. Because the body is not meant for that. It takes 40 drops of blood. No, let me see. We have 40 drops of blood to produce 1 drop of semen. 40 drops of blood. So when you waste that semen, you're wasting your blood. 40 drops for every drop of semen. And when you eat, you create blood by the food you eat also, like that. So people are actually, they're wasting their blood. But when you do it for Krishna conscious children, it becomes divine and everything becomes auspicious. There's no inebrities, there's no, what we say, negative reactions on any level, because it's blessed by Guru, Krishna, the Vaishnavas, the sacred fire. It's a sacred act when it's done accordingly.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Krishna Kairaj Prabhu. Next, we have Balavan Nitai Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you and the Vaishnavas. Jai Shri Nityananda. What a fascinating topic. Boy, just especially the last parts that you said about the drops of blood and it all, and back to the food, you know, it all is connected. It's actually quite beautiful how you connected it all together. So I guess a couple of things. For old degenerates such as myself, you know, newer to Krishna consciousness, is it to take up this, you know, retaining of the energy? You know, I think you maybe started to touch on it a little. Apart from willpower, reading the Bhagavatam, how does one control that really? I mean, is there something you could direct? And you know, because
in the mind by reading the scripture, especially Bhagavatam, and chanting the holy name. In the body by doing exercises. When it comes into the body, you can go out and jog around the block. Do some exercise. And that energy, or there's yoga. There's actually yoga postures for diverting that energy in the right way so it doesn't go down and it goes upward. The asanas, and the hatha yoga asanas are also meant for that. That's why people who perform hatha yoga become very strong.
you recommend that those types of yoga for that specifically?
Right. Yeah. But yoga, hatha yoga, when it's done according to the principles of hatha yoga, is meant to control the mind and the senses. One who can master hatha yoga can control their mind and senses very, what we say, minutely, carefully, every minute. But hatha yoga is not an end in itself. It's only part of the yoga process. Bhakti is the process. So yeah, if that energy becomes disturbing, do some yoga exercises, do some gymnastics exercises like that.
Okay, and then well, that's very good. I will. I'll try attempt it. On the other side, without getting into a story, I'm participating in the raising of a child by a dear friend of mine, and I've been taking them to the Krishna temple since before they could speak. The baby performs obeisances. He loves Krishna, knows Prabhupada by name, snuggles his bead bag to sleep at 3. It's amazing to me. I mean, he took to Krishna consciousness as though he was a devotee in a former life. Now, he's not my child. I love him very much, but does that in itself, even my friends' children who I care about, introducing them to Krishna consciousness, and then they take it up. I've heard this term punya, blessings. What have I really done by making this child Krishna conscious?
Well, you gained the favor of Krishna for sure. That means anyone who helps another in their Krishna consciousness becomes advanced in their own, and also pleases Krishna very directly. Because Krishna comes to the material world simply for that business, to make the conditioned souls God conscious. So those who do that on his behalf are actually they get special mercy from Krishna.
Thank God. I need it. I need the blessings.
Okay, but do it just to help that soul. The blessings will come automatically. If you
Yes.
think I'm doing it for my own blessings, you may be going to your nose by going around the long way, you know. Do it as a service to that soul. Do it as a service to Krishna. The blessings will be automatic.
Truly. Very nice. Wonderful. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you. We have Bhavani.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Shri Prabhupada and your lotus feet. Maharaj, I was just thinking about like ego, and we say that ego rises when like somebody compliments you, but I don't really understand like when does ego rise really? Like ego, it is there in everybody, but when does it like really rise?
Well, the ego is the subtlest form of the conditioned soul's existence. Ego is identified in Janasamoham Yamahamameti. Ego is understood in two categories, I and mine. I am, this is. So anything you put after that is a product of the false ego. I am a woman. I am intelligent. I am expert. I am young. I am old. The soul has no identity with any of these things. Therefore, it's all based on the body, which is the identity of the body with something material, that is false ego. The mind conception is a little less powerful than the I conception, but it's still there. This is my wife. This is my home. This is my money. This is my children. This is mine, mine, mine. So Prabhupada would say the mind principle is stronger in the animals, and the I principle is stronger in the human forms. But both are products or characteristics of the false ego. So real ego is Jiver Surupoi Krishnera Nechudas. I am eternal servant of Krishna. That is real ego. Everything is ahankara. Ahankara means false ego, adopted based on the body. And we're not this body. That's the point. So the basic principle of the false ego is I am my body. So become Krishna conscious and get rid of this false idea. I am servant of Krishna. That is real ego.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Good question.
Thank you, Pavani. Dear devotees, if you have any more questions, please raise your hands or type them in the chat. Revati Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Lord Prabhupada. It's not a question, but that was a very powerful class. I was thinking about this, like procreation of children should be done only to make kids Krishna conscious, souls Krishna conscious. But until unless we come to the uh, contact with the pure devotee, we don't realize this because most of the families, uh, it's we are more in like a sense gratification. So it's a unless we get the mercy of Krishna, so we cannot come in contact, and we continue to be in that heavy, sinful activities, sinful karma.
Yeah, we want to have children as an expression of our own ego to propagate our own desires through our children. That's the material conception. That's why parents, they want their children to be like them. And if your kid looks like you think, wow, that's really cool. Another me. So yeah, it's somewhat narcissist also.
And still, I mean, this is unless this is so important to learn. If not, like we'll be completely in the illusion. So.
Yeah. You have to understand this whole material world is designed just so you can, act out the role of trying to be the supreme enjoyer. When we get rid of that idea that we are not the enjoyer, we are the servant of the supreme enjoyer, then all of these other things will become easily to overcome. We have to know who we are, at least theoretically.
That's very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Very, very powerful class. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's a class that Prabhupada said we should have every day. This is Srila Prabhupada. Just so people don't kind of, what they say, internalize the wrong ideas, and then it manifests in some wrong activity. Bodhiantas parasparam patiyantas chimam dichantu shanti cha. Discuss the philosophy, discuss about Krishna. Sadhu Sangha, discuss, and everything will be clear, both about Krishna and about the process of bhakti.
Thank you, Revati Mataji. Dear devotees, any further questions? Very important topic.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, maybe, we have one more from Krishna Kaviraj and one from Kalindi also.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Whilst I've known no desire to engage in such activity, but the question came up just in that there are many devotee couples that want to have children and want to raise them as Krishna conscious children. But in the modern day, because of so many reasons, so many devotees or non-devotees, whatever they are, struggle to have children for so many reasons. So maybe in the previous eras, they could have one attempt and a child would arrive, but nowadays they may spend years trying. So would they end up, and also, whilst they may have this high intention of wanting to raise a Krishna conscious child, in the moment, would they not be overtaken by material desire?
There's that danger. It could happen. I'm not saying it's likely, but it is possible they could be taken by that.
It sounds like it would be extremely hard for them not to get sucked into the material desire once they're,
Yeah, that could get it also. But once the child is born, then their desire is fulfilled, and then they can again follow the principles very carefully. Yeah, there are many problems. I mean, if I could make this one statement, you might not like it at all, but that's what I'm here for, to make statements that people don't like. Prabhupada said this, but he said it in a certain context, so don't get me wrong, because he said the opposite in other contexts. But he said licit or illicit, it's all illicit. Why? Because there's so much trouble. So much trouble. So he's talking to brahmacharis mostly, or men in that case. But for women, it is natural for women to want children. It is natural for women to want to bear children. So that's there. So therefore, Krishna conscious children. Divine activity, not something else. But Prabhupada is making that statement in a certain context, that as soon as you have children, then there's so much time, energy, and efforts to raise children, bring children up, take care of them, maintain them, make sure everything goes right. And it takes a lot of time. People, I mean, for the woman, for the first 5 years of the child's life, she has to devote 100% of her time for that child. 100% of her time. She can't leave that child alone at any time. Well, nowadays they do that, and sometimes the children get hurt, or they give it to some grandparents, and the grandparents spoil the kid or something. So something goes wrong. But another solution to this problem of procreation and community is community, actually. When it says it takes a village to raise a child, that's from Shastra. So when a child lives in a village with so many elders there, they have many husbands, they have many fathers, they have many mothers. That takes the burden, some of the burden off the parents for raising the kids. When they have a community, a spiritual community, they're all together. Like this, we were hearing from Balavan Nitai, he was saying he was helping raise another person's child. That's nice. So yeah, therefore community is the answer to all of the difficulties that come with raising children. Community. Spiritual community.
Thank you, Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu. Kalindi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. My humble obeisances at your lotus feet. Maharaj, I definitely want my children has to be good in Krishna conscious. As well, my desire is they have to be good in academic wise, So, is that comes under material desire, Maharaj?
No, no, not at all. That's natural.
Okay.
Not at all material. No. Krishna conscious and raise them up so they get a good education. But combine secular education with Krishna conscious education, both, not just one.
Okay, Maharaj.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Where are you in the world? What city?
Maharaj, it's me, Dallas Maharaj, Kalindi Mataji, Kiranasa Prabhu.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so in America, it's good. You can homeschool your children. So you're allowed to do that in America. You can school the kids right at home, and they can get accreditations from your teachings, and they can also, when they get older, they can enter into university. You can give them grammar school and high school all at home. Okay.
Yeah, they are going to school, Maharaj. One is 13-year-old, one is 10-year-old.
Yeah, but the schools nowadays, they teach them all bad habits.
But they regularly attend Bhakti Riksha classes
Good.
and
Give them kirtan too.
yeah, they are going to Sunday school also, Maharaj.
Okay, they're good kids then. Huh? As long as they don't pick up any bad habits from their peers in school, which happens all the time.
Yes, Maharaj.
Prabhupada wanted gurukuls for the children, Krishna conscious schools.
Thank you, Kalindi Mataji.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we can stop here and maybe chant a little japa.
Sure, Maharaj.
Okay. I have a little time, not a lot of time, but some time. Okay. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hari 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, Hare Ram, Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari. Hari Hari, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Ram, Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Ram, Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Ram, Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari. Hare Ram, Ram, Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari, Hare Rama, Hare Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hari, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hari, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hari, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hari. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Rama Hari Hari. Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari. Hari Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Hari Krishna 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 Hari Rama. Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari. Hari Rama Hari Rama. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Hari. Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna. Krishna Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. Hari Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama. Krishna 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 Hari Hari. Hari Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari Rama Hari Rama. Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama. Hari 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 Rama. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Krishna Krishna. Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari Hari Hari. Krishna Hari Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama Hari Rama Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So we will conclude today's class. Thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to your association in tomorrow's class. Hare Krishna. Manchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyeva pasanapamnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.